Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Steven here, Northwest Small Batch Brewing. It's time for your weekly brew talk. It's not weekly, but it is pretty much weekly. Today's brew talk, I'm kind of excited about. I don't know why. It shouldn't be, but I think this is a good one. A little bit funny, but a good one. So, low-calorie beer. How to make a low-calorie beer that doesn't suck. All right, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really like low-calorie beer all that much. Here's the thing. Personally, I feel like if you're going to drink beer, just make the real thing. Make it a good quality beer and drink less of it. And here's why. The average beer, let's say 12 ounces, and this is going to vary widely, but let's say the average beer has 150 calories. All right. And like I say, it varies. So a low calorie beer would probably have somewhere between 65 and 100 calories. So what we've learned in health class, right, is there's 3,500 calories in a pound. And so if you want to lose a pound, I mean, this is not exact. Losing weight is a little more complicated than this, but essentially you have to lose 3,500 calories to lose a pound. So over a week, that's what, 500 calories. So every day during the week, you have to eat 500 calories less than your low metabolic rate in order to lose a pound in a week. So I guess what I'm getting to is that drinking a low-calorie beer is probably not going to lead to losing weight. So if you're drinking it to lose weight, it's not probably the best choice. I mean, you might as well just drink regular beer. If you're doing it because you drink too much and you're trying to drink more beer but have it not be hit you as hard, you maybe should consider why you're drinking so much. But then there's days where you want a lighter beer. You want a beer, but you don't want to, have all the alcohol from it. At any rate, for whatever reason, if that is what you want to do, that's what I'm here to talk about today. So where do the calories come from in a beer? Really, there's two places, but the majority comes from the alcohol itself. Surprise, surprise. Alcohol actually has a lot of calories in it. The actual rest of it is mostly from the starches, which obviously become your carbohydrates, but the lion's share comes from alcohol. So, it stands to reason if you can reduce the alcohol in the beer and you can reduce the body, you'll get a low-calorie beer. But what happens when you reduce the alcohol in the body in a beer? You end up with a beer with no body and no flavor. So, how do you make a beer light and not suck? Well, I think that the first thing you have to look at is the style of beer. There are some styles that are going to lend themselves more to being better, even at a lighter scale. Because what you're going to have to do, well, I'll get to this. I'm going to explain what we have to do to make our light beer. But the first thing you have to look at is the styles, right? There are some styles like a Scotch ale, and I'm talking about these are styles that are pretty hefty in the body or flavor department. Scotch ales, Berliner Weisses, brown ales even, ordinary bitter. Hey, here's a good one, dry Irish stout. Now that one might surprise you. A lot of people drink like a Guinness and they're just like, oh, I can't drink a Guinness. It's too heavy. It's too heavy a beer for me. Believe it or not, a lot of people don't realize Guinness has a pretty low ABV. I think it's below 5%. So believe it or not, you can make a stout, like an Irish stout, like a Guinness that's not very high ABV. I've always said, and it's funny, people don't always agree, but for me personally, my palate, I don't really care for Guinness because to me it tastes very watered down and thin and not a lot of body, and it makes sense. If you look at the ABV, that's the truth. That is what it is. And I've been to Dublin. I've toured the Guinness factory. I've done the whole thing. I've had the pint of Guinness at the top of their facility. It's a cool, and it's a little touristy, trappy, but it's a fun thing to do once. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here. So the first thing you want to do is pick a style of beer that's going to have a lot of flavor and a lot of body, so that when you do make it lighter, it will hopefully retain as much of that as possible. So you got to lower the gravity, the original gravity. That's the bottom line. And what's that going to do? The first thing I talked about, it's going to lower the alcohol content. That's going to give you a lower calorie beer. So you have to lower the gravity. Now, I'm not saying you have to lower it like to stupid levels, but you have to lower it to a point that works for you. Secondly, is that you have to mash at a higher temperature. If you mash it at a higher temperature, it's going to retain a lot more of the non-fermentable sugars, which means it's going to give you more body left at the end and less alcohol. So those are the two tricks to making it a lighter beer. Like, you could do a 3% beer and still end up with a fairly good amount of flavor and body in it. You can use brewing software to adjust your recipe if you're trying to, reduce the gravity down. And it should calculate by percentage. Like, if I'm using 80% Pilsner and I want to have this gravity, it should reduce your recipe down. Unfortunately, and I'm just going to come out and say it, Brewer's Friend is really losing my interest. They have, just like the other software that's out there, they have this option where you can tell it, hey, I want to have this gravity, original gravity, or this percentage of ABV of my final beer. And here's the grains I'm going to use in this percentage, and it will calculate how much you need of each grain to hit those numbers. Unfortunately, that particular calculator or feature has not worked for over a year. And I've pestered them several times throughout the year, and they've just done nothing about it. And, this is for paying customers. So at this point, you might want to consider one of the other brewing softwares other than Brewer's Friend if you're going to pay, because they're not great about fixing stuff that is broken on their software. What was I going to say? Last thing I wanted to point out, it's separate from this topic of a light beer. I had talked about this a while back, not too long ago, but I basically had opened a Teespring store where you could get a t-shirt or a sticker or something with my logo or a little saying that I tend to say. And I did it as a no profit, meaning I didn't get any money out of it. Whatever you had to pay for those is the bottom line. It's the lowest that I can put it, and I have zero profit. That's what that company gets paid to make those and send it to you. It's just a way to support my channel. Unfortunately, Teespring has really gone downhill. I've gotten reports that they're not sending out the merchandise that is ordered. And when you email them, their customer service is bad. They respond saying, well, we had a problem, or we changed warehouses and it's going to be due, you should have it within the next month. I'm like, or 2 months. Well, I had this happen myself, by the way. So I'm ditching Teespring is the bottom line. I'm not going to use it anymore. I've already started the process to close it down. And I'm looking for another option. There's one I'm looking at that I think will be good, but I'm going to test it out first personally and see what my experience is ordering from it before I, move over to that platform. So stay tuned for that. Once I have something set up, I will let you know. That's all I have for this week. Glad you stopped by, and I'll be back in another week with another video. And until then, go brew something. See ya.